Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome to the Steve and Wrestling Pro Larson podcast. That's right, back at it. Because I goofed it up the other day. I said Steve and Wrestling Pro Wrestling podcast. I don't know why, it's weird. It rolls off the tongue oddly better than Steve and Larson's Pro Wrestling podcast.
What are you trying to say?
From now on, I guess your name is Wrestling, Larson. Anyways, that's my hot take.
I don't want to be and wrestling.
You are wrestling.
I'm not wrestling.
Anyways, all right, wrestling. Listen, we're going to go ahead and listen to these hot takes. Me and Larson. Sorry, I don't mean to give you an identity crisis today.
You're giving me bulletin board material for the basketball.
Hey, buddy, if the other day is to be taken into account, you don't need any more bulletin board material. Let's go ahead and get these hot takes from the friendos. First up, we're going to talk about Pat McAfee. The Wallinator says Pat McAfee is the exact kind of opponent that Gunther needs right now. He needs to demonstrate there is more to the Gunther character than the stale black and gold era guy who wins titles for a long time boredom. Yeah, Larson, you got your hand up.
I got a hot take. I'll say this. Thus far, every attempt Triple H has made to add dimension to Gunther's character has not worked out well for Gunther.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know if a competitive match with, look, I understand Pat is like on one of the all-time teams as like one of the best punters in NFL history. He's a former athlete. He's had some fun matches. I'm not going to sell him short as a competitor.
Yeah, it's not like you or me getting in there. It's not like Michael Cole getting in there.
No, but at the same time, this isn't some mid-carder that Pat McAfee's getting to a feud with. This is Gunther, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history. Just lost the World Heavyweight Championship. And I don't know if this story over the course of literally this next week is going to be enough to add so much dimension to Gunther's character that we're going to rethink who Gunther is, or even add, literally this match seems to exist so Gunther can destroy Pat McAfee, I would think, would destroy Pat McAfee to such an extent that it makes the audience feel uncomfortable. More so reestablishing Gunther as villain as opposed to adding dimension to his character. It's an interesting choice and not one I would have expected coming out of WrestleMania. I thought Gunther was going to take extended time off. I thought he'd be out till, I don't know, maybe June or something like that. Maybe lead up to Money in the Bank. And, last time we saw him lose his title coming out of WrestleMania last year when he lost the Intercontinental title to Sammy, he returned focused and determined to prove the doubters and haters wrong and dominated the King of the Ring tournament and won that in convincing fashion. And then shortly thereafter, of course, won the World Heavyweight Championship. I doubt they're going to have something as dominant for Gunther coming out of his loss this year. So instead, let's have him do a match against Pat McAfee.
So I'll take I'll play devil's advocate here on behalf of Wallinator.
Sure.
And make this case. I'll put it this way. After our discussion today, I'm not as anti this match as I would have been before, as I was last night. That's legit. So this isn't really devil's advocate. This is sort of
that's a shoot from Steve there.
I feel like if the idea was let's try to make Gunther into, let's say Gunther as it stands kind of reached the limit of what Triple H could do with him. Like, okay, he had this world title reign. They didn't exactly line up a killer, a really great killer lineup for him to defend that title against. Because maybe the idea is we need a bit more. We need to jazz him up for the crowd a little bit more, maybe. For him to go on and challenge. But he's challenged Cody before at Crown Jewel. So I don't know. If the idea is let's add some stank to Gunther and make him into the kind of big bad that, for example, Drew McIntyre is, but in his own Gunther way.
Well, but that's where Gunther was when he was Intercontinental Champion. He was that character. He already was there.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they thought otherwise. And if the idea is let's add a little bit more comic book villainy to him, I'm not saying I agree with that approach, but I'm saying this is one way to do it. My kind of, I don't know, take on that would be if you wanted Gunther to completely brutalize Pat McAfee in order to elicit, more hatred towards Gunther via sympathy towards McAfee. I mean, you could have just done that with what they did last week where he almost killed the guy.
Yeah.
Do you need a match for this? Well, you want Gunther to be on the pay-per-views. So, sure, why not have a match where he definitively does this for the last 4 minutes of a 12-minute match is my supposition. And then see where he's at coming out of it. I mean, my biggest question is sort of let's say they accomplish that goal. Let's say Gunther completely shows that he has taken his villainous side to another level via Pat McAfee and killing this guy. What then? There's still a what then?
Because then the next step has to be now he has to do that to a full-time wrestler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why not just do that to a full-time wrestler? Someone who's super over as a babyface, who the fans are really behind. I don't know who that is off the top of my head. Why not just have that as Gunther's first feud?
Yeah.
After Mania.
I'm not I can understand. I don't know. I kind of get it. You get a taste of it. McAfee, defiant. Oh, I'm going to fight you. Steps up and then gets the Apollo Creed treatment in Rocky IV. And then he can be launched in a way that's sort of a bit bigger using the match. I get it. I understand it. Would it be my approach? Probably not. Pat McAfee is such a weird left field choice for this, but I can understand it as a storytelling device to get Gunther to be a bit more of a transparently villainous villain. I get it. I don't love it. That being said, the match might end up actually being pretty entertaining. So I'm not super anti. I wouldn't say that that Pat McAfee in the case of the Wallinator says Pat McAfee is what we need right now.
No, I don't think it's the exact kind of opponent Gunther needs.
But at the same time,
it's an opponent.
I'm willing to give it a shot. Continuing on with the Pat McAfee discussion, Mew464 says, McAfee, this is hot, Larson. I don't know how hot that tea is you got over there, buddy.
It's not very strong, and that's kind of my concern more so than the temperature. I'm dipping this tea bag in here over and over, and this
is water, huh?
Yeah, it's just come on, tea, do your thing.
Well, maybe this heat will add some substance to your tea. McAfee should be presented as a legitimate adversary. He's a former pro athlete. Hold on, Larson. Just wait, Larson. He's a former pro athlete and has shown he can go in the ring, and he's legitimately over. People do like Pat McAfee quite a bit.
I understand that part. I understand that he has been in matches. He had a match against Adam Cole. He had one against Baron Corbin.
He had one against Baron Corbin at, golly, man, I just had it up the other day. Do I still have it up here? No, that's Logan Paul. Yeah, he had let me go ahead and look at the resume here for Pat McAfee.
So if the point of
golly, where the hell's Pat McAfee?
I'm trying to think how to put this. If they could find a way to make Pat look like a legitimate adversary and yet the match not be competitive, that's what they should do. For example, it should be a thing where Gunther comes in. This Pat McAfee. This should be easy day at the office for the ring general. So it's the thing where he's hitting with a bunch of stuff, a bunch of chops. Pat keeps getting up. More chops, some kicks. Pat keeps getting up. Maybe Pat gets a couple moves in. Where the match isn't competitive, but McAfee's not backing down. He's getting right back in Gunther's face. That's fine. I understand Pat's a former athlete. I know he has shown in the past that he can put on decent matches. He hasn't been in the ring with anybody like Gunther. I know Adam Cole's great. Baron Corbin's never booked like a consistent, capable wrestler during his time in WWE. Gunther's on a different level.
So yeah, just for context here, we mentioned this 5 years ago. He took on Adam Cole, also did a War Games match. And then 2 years later, he beat Austin Theory at WrestleMania 38. That's when Vince McMahon came out and beat Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee then defeated Happy Corbin at SummerSlam 2022. And then he beat The Miz at WrestleMania 39 in 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and then he was in the Royal Rumble in 2024.
Yeah.
So his resume is not, what you're saying is true. Pat is an athlete. He's an accomplished athlete. And in character, he's a scrapper. You know, he's like, oh, I'm not going to take this lying down. Maybe you give him, the ability to kick out of stuff and to stand back up whenever he gets beat down. You can do that. And you can also paint Gunther as taking an easy day on Pat McAfee because he doesn't feel like he needs to do anything else. And so that's why I'm saying, okay, 8 minutes of that and then 4 minutes of Gunther being like, all right, I got to shut this down. That's as legitimate as it should be. That's as legitimate as it should be.
Let me ask you this. Should McAfee get a near fall?
No, he will.
He will.
He will. He shouldn't.
No.
He should not. There should be a gulf between what this is going to be and what, for example, Gunther versus Michael Cole should be, if that were ever to happen. That should be simple annihilation.
Yeah.
This should be a bit more than that.
Yeah, but it should not be a highly competitive match.
But I don't know. Maybe do you remember what's McAfee's thing? Like, does he have a finishing move of some sort?
Well, I mean, he was a punter, so that mean like he kicked Adam Cole in the head in the build up to their match.
Okay, I remember
and that was the huge thing.
In like his match against Baron and Miz, did he kick them for the finish? I don't remember.
I barely remember what he did yesterday, much less what happened in 2022.
I know. So maybe if he punts Gunther, if he gets Gunther somehow in a position where he could be punted and he punts him, there's your near fall. That I can see. The guy was a world-class punter. So maybe he'll get a near fall with that.
Anything beyond that, no.
He was a Super Bowl winning punter, wasn't he? Wasn't he on the Colts when they won the Super Bowl?
I think so. But he was like on their they did some like all-time team, and I think he was the punter on that team, the NFL. I don't remember exactly what it was. Maybe
you and I are simply trying to rationalize this too much, Larson, because Celtic 69 here says losing your title to Jey Uso and then immediately going into a feud with commentator could be burial of the year.
I mean, that was kind of my first instinct. Not
that was
burial.
My first instinct.
Not exactly burial, but you go from competing and losing, competing for and losing the World Heavyweight Championship, which, yes, secondary world title, but in theory, top title on Raw,
yeah,
to kind of a celebrity feud, you know?
Yeah.
And that is not a step up. It's not a lateral step. That is, in a lot of ways, a step down. And I kind of wonder if WWE is of the mind that, all right, we had WrestleMania. That's our Super Bowl. That's our huge show of the year. But we want to try to maximize the eyeballs we can put on the follow-up Backlash. So let's have Pat on the card because he's got a huge following outside of wrestling.
Could be.
Let's have Logan Paul compete for the World Heavyweight Championship. Again, huge following outside of wrestling. So we can get some more attention on this show that otherwise would have kind of been a blip on the entertainment landscape.
That could be. When I saw that he was having that match last night, I was like, boy, that sucks for him.
For Gunther, yeah.
For Gunther. Yeah. So yeah, my brain started trying to rationalize it. Maybe they're writing Pat off which they could have done last week, but I guess they're going to do in a match. Maybe they're not. Maybe this is just, this is just a match. This is what they want to do with Gunther.
Let me ask you this. As a percentage,
yeah,
or you can do it how Vegas does it with the plus and minus.
Okay.
What chance do you give Pat at actually beating Gunther?
I would go a minus 2,000.
Wait, minus 2,000 means
yeah.
If you're minus, you're the favorite.
Sorry, Gunther is a minus 2,000.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Or Pat's a plus 2,000.
Yeah, it'd be a plus 2,000.
However it works.
Yeah.
I'd say that. It's a really long shot, but not so long. Not like, some people in the Royal Rumble, the Royal Rumble betting odds, it was like, plus 10,000.
Yeah.
It's the people it's like John Moxley plus 10,000.
Yeah,
he's not in
Royal
Mox
Rumble.
winning the Rumble territory.
No.
Because he's contractually obligated to another company. But I'm not going to give him,
You're not going to say it's an impossibility.
It's not like a plus 500.
No.
But,
No.
2,000 is a lot to overcome.
It is.
Yeah. What about you? What would you give? About the same?
I think it's higher than a 2% botch.
Yeah.
But less than 10%.
Okay.
So like 7.
Okay.
I don't know how that lines up with a plus 2,000, but I'd say like somewhere between a 6 and 8% chance.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I think it's probably around in line.
That might be
think
commiserate with the plus
maybe.
2,000. I don't know.
Maybe. Anyways, we've got a sponsor for the show this week, so we are going to take a quick break and talk about them.
Let's do it. Let's take a quick break. Get a word from our sponsor, Tempo. Steve.
Yes.
We know fast food, don't we? We know a lot about fast food.
We know fast food, man.
That we do. And there have been countless instances where I'm sure we have been busy or time was tight and we had to settle for a lump of greasy meat product at mealtime.
Yeah, man. No, I feel you. And that's why my whole concept of fast food changed when I discovered Tempo. Tempo is a weekly delivery service that allows you to select from over 20 mindful meal choices that are crafted to cook in just 3 minutes, and they're delivered fresh right to your door.
That's correct. Tempo's dietitian-approved menu takes all the guesswork out of eating well, and they've got new recipes each week, like tomato pesto meatballs. I know you like pesto, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And braised red wine beef that are made with real, nutrient-rich ingredients which make it easy to keep up with your healthy lifestyle so you can eat well without sacrificing taste or convenience.
And for a limited time, Tempo is offering Going In Raw listeners 60% off your first box. Go to tempomeals.com/raw. That's tempomeals.com/raw for 60% off your first box. tempomeals.com/raw. Rules and restrictions may apply. All right, let's continue on with these hot takes. First up, from Black Star SRS, says people are too afraid to criticize the game Triple H for his misfires in booking and will look for any excuse to not criticize him.
So I'm not really on the social medias anymore.
Sure.
So I'm not seeing the conversation about stuff. So you're going to have to fill me in. Is there a lot of people who will try to rationalize Triple H's booking mistakes or misfires in an attempt to justify them? Is that a prevalent thing going out there or going on out there?
So, yeah. Like, I think honestly, I can go kind of also by the comments that we see here over at WrestleJuice. Last night on WrestleJuice, I posted up, a video said something like, Backlash not looking great right now. A lot of people took issue with that. Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. People were very quick. And again, this is something that I think you'd also be kind of privy to with the comments. People are very quick to, and that's why I kind of tried to dial it back the other day when we were talking about The Rock. People were very quick to jump on The Rock for not being at WrestleMania when
putting the blame on him for the misfire at the end of Mania. Yeah.
If he had been explicit and said, hey, I can't be there, I'm doing a thing. I can't be there, I'm doing a thing all along the way. And they asked him, come in for Chamber because we need to boost tickets. Okay, I will do you that thing. What do you want me to do? We're going to turn Cena heel. I'd prefer it to be Cody, but okay. I'll do the thing. I'll participate in that. And he does that. And it's a great moment. Everybody loves it. But he tells him, I can't be there. Well, then it's on Triple H. The bad finish should be on him, but a lot of people were really okay jumping on the rock. And I get it. He went on Pat McAfee like the next day to wash his hands of it.
Yeah.
And I think some people took issue with that alone. But yeah, I think in general, there is a sentiment out there that people do not want to criticize Triple H. They see him as like, oh my God, you know, any amount of criticizing that guy is going to automatically bring us back to the Vince McMahon days. And it's like, no, his work should stand up to criticism.
Exactly. No, yeah. 1,000%. 1,000%. I have seen some of those takes in the comments. You know, I just didn't know how prevalent that sentiment was in the larger wrestling sphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why I brought it up. I mean, I hope we're not afraid to criticize Triple H. I don't feel like we are.
Oh, speak for yourself, man.
Oh, you're afraid to criticize Triple H?
He's the game. You know, I'm sorry. I know, like, you watched all the shows in the build to WrestleMania. You saw the video package. You've seen what this guy has done in his career. You saw that he won King of the Ring 1997.
You know, it's pretty clear that he's willing to dedicate a lot of creative energy and a lot of resources to celebrating himself, Triple H is. Unfortunately, there wasn't that level of detail paid to some of the creative leading up to WrestleMania. Maybe if they'd spent less time on Triple H video packages and more time telling stories in the build to WrestleMania, people would have been a little more satisfied with the show.
There's only so much time, so much bandwidth, you know? It's like, what do I do? Put a story to Charlotte, Tiffany Stratton, cut together, which I assume he's editing these things, King of the Ring 1997 video package. The choice is clear.
So when he's on the private jet flying from show to show, you know, he's sitting there, he's got his laptop out, and he's got all his notes, and yet he's on his phone on iMovie.
Yeah.
Putting these video packages together.
And then off to the side is obviously Pluto TV, where he's watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine. At this point, I'm just talking about myself.
Yeah,
this
is you.
We have criticized the game plenty. It is funny, though. There is a thing, like, because, you know, typically on over at WrestleJuice especially, I have tried to not be overly positive, but I generally don't do videos where I talk negatively about stuff in general. If something is interesting to me and it's like a positive thing or it's something I can make fun of in a fun way, I'll do it. So like last night when I did that negative, I was like, oh, wow. Well, I know to ban these people from the channel. So like they're just not going to be around anymore.
Yeah.
But the video's doing very well, but it's because negativity sells.
It does.
You know, it does. But, you know, there is a backlash to that in the comments. Like, oh, no, this is going to be great. This is awesome. Logan Paul's great. What? I remember somebody in the comments said, Logan Paul haters seem to be miserable people. I'm like, dude, you know what my Monday consisted of?
Listen up.
I can confirm that I'm the least miserable person on planet Earth. I got to play basketball for an hour with my best friend yesterday. I got myself a new $300 TV from Walmart that I set up to watch Stranger Things with my kid. I drew some of my comic book. I talked about pro wrestling for an hour. And that was my Monday.
Not a whole lot to complain about. Nope.
No, I really don't.
Same.
I'm not terribly miserable. All right, well, let's talk about this next hot take here. Moving on to more WWE creative stuff. The Derb Wonder says, saying that John Cena and Cody had a bad match because, quote, Cena said he's ruining wrestling doesn't make it better.
No, it doesn't make the quality of the match any better. Not at all. If the theory that we have been talking about that the match was potentially, and we're not even sure of this, bad on purpose, you want to call it that way, to further Cena's character is but a theory, but it doesn't make the match good just because it was purposely bad. You can look at it, and if that was their intent, potentially appreciate the intent. At the same time, if their goal and their aim was to have a bad match, you can't give them then bonus points for having a bad match. A bad match is a bad match, regardless if they intended to have one or not.
So there's some semantics at play here. Like, what does it mean? The match? If he's talking about the match itself doesn't make it better, like the match, yeah, the whole point. If, let's say, for example,
and that's the massive caveat. If, yes.
Big caveat. If the point was to make a bad match, then no, it shouldn't be better. It was bad. They accomplished their goal. If you say it doesn't make it better in terms of like the general thing that happened, hell yeah, it makes it better because there was intent there. It'd be much worse if this was the best thing they could come up with. This would be way worse. If the general idea of the thing is way worse if they tried hard to put on a good match and they put on this piece of shit. Yeah, that's horrible. So it does make it better if it is the final, the final product, I guess, or the accomplishment, whatever they set out to do. If they try to do something and they accomplish that goal, that's better than trying to do something good and coming up with this piece of shit. So it depends on what it is in this sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like I said, you can give them credit for
what you
accomplishing
said is,
their goal. Yeah. But if the goal was a bad match and they accomplished their goal, which was a bad match, I'm not going to rate the match any higher just simply because that's what they were trying to do.
Right. The match itself, regardless of intent, is terrible. Bad.
Yes.
But the accomplishment of that is better if it was on purpose, because at least then you could say, you know what? I went out there to ruin wrestling and I had a very specific...
Gosh darn it, I accomplished it,
Yeah, right. I had a very specific goal. Could I have gone a mile a minute? Could I have put on, a Will Ospreay match? Yeah, I could have. But that wouldn't have ruined wrestling. It would have made wrestling better, and that's not what I said I was going to do.
Exactly.
So it depends on what you mean by it here, man.
Yeah. This is an interesting take here from Canal Zero. Says, if Cena and Cody had a good match, people would not complain about The Rock not showing up.
This is totally true.
Well, it would have gone a long way. True. I think there were some people that were like, well, wasn't Rock and Cena in alliance? Why didn't he show up? I think there still would have been some complaints about The Rock not being there. They wouldn't have been as loud if the match was good, though.
There's no matter what happens, there's always going to be some people that do A, B, and C. But if we're talking about general consensus, then yeah, if they put on a banger-ass match or even a compelling match, doesn't have to be a Will Ospreay match, but if they did something interesting and compelling and it was like, oh, shit, by the end of it, that landed Cena with his number 17, yeah, I think that, the general consensus would have been like, dang, they killed it, and I really want to know what happens next, as opposed to a much more polarizing, probably 70-30 split. Nah, this match sucked versus, this was okay, this was acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Next hot take here from OG Bunch. Says, Roman versus Seth, once they are both retired and the story is over, has the potential to be the best rivalry of all time.
Potential is the key word there, right?
Potential, yes. I kind of feel like they need to have now their characters have evolved to such different places from the Shield days.
Yeah.
And they're very established as those characters.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like they kind of need to have their definitive feud.
Yeah, the potential aspect here is everything because they haven't had their big one definitive concluding at WrestleMania main event level feud. They haven't done that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, and I'm curious your take on this, is this new Seth Rollins thing ultimately going to be the thing that is the whole point of this, the beginnings of the vehicle for that specific thing? I could see this version of Seth Rollins being the kickoff to eventually the retirement match for Roman Reigns. If his contract is going to be, God, what do we say? So next year,
he said 3 to 4 more years. He said he had 2 more years, I think, on his current deal, and then another year. No,
the current deal is up 2026 after WrestleMania 2026.
So 2 to 3 more years.
So 2 to 3 more years. So let's say I think you and I had said 2027 or 2028. So you at this point, don't you need a series at WrestleMania between these two guys, and then it will cement it because the history is there. But yeah, dude, you need that end of an era type situation with these guys.
Yeah,
and if we don't get that, then no, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, the way that their story and their rivalry is kind of permeated so much of WWE now, and kind of the aftershocks are felt across the company, that's pretty unique in the world of wrestling. Where one incident, obviously Seth hitting Roman in the back with that chair and the Shield broke up, has had such reverberations 11 years later still, to this degree.
They literally refer to it as the Shield chair now.
Yeah. So potential is there, but yeah, they need that. They need that definitive feud. And you would think with Heyman joining Seth, everybody that Roman thought he could once count on has at least one time betrayed him. In a lot of respects, Roman's alone now. Sure, he could probably turn to Jay or Jimmy or Sammy. Maybe it's time for him to finally apologize for all of his manipulation and abuse in the years prior. To start really making amends for all that he did, at the peak of the Bloodline story. I don't know, but it feels like at some point, whether it's next year's WrestleMania, 2-3 years down the line, we got to have Roman versus Seth, where it's just all out there, and whether it's Roman coming to terms with what Seth did finally and healing that wound that kind of started everything with the Bloodline, or I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, don't know how it's all going to resolve itself, but yeah, they definitely need to have their definitive feud for sure.
Yeah, the video package, it's going to have a lot of material to work with. It's not going to be like a Rock Austin My Way where it's just like one,
It's like 4 shots over and over again. Yeah.
Let's move on to this one. The Big Ick says Stephanie Vaquer has the potential to be the biggest female star in the WWE, even over Rhea Ripley.
I mean, the way she's amassed a massive following since debuting months ago is something else. And the reactions she gets on Raw are really impressive. So, again, it all comes down to quality creative once she's on main roster full time and developing her character. And if they can manage to do that, sky's the limit for her. Absolutely.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's remarkable how her aura, honestly, like it's something that it reminds me to a degree of Asuka, how just the sheer aura of her character, her presence, just excites people. But it might even be a notch higher. Like her presentation, her look, she's got those Hollywood looks. I mean, she looks like she don't belong in the WWE. She belongs out there in Hollywood or something because she's got it. I mean, you saw that shot of her. They don't do this for everybody on Raw, but they did a walking, into the arena shot. And it's like, gosh darn, she belongs at the highest level of being a star. So yeah, absolutely, she's got the potential. Like you said, a lot of it depends on, a lot of it depends on story, and feuds and chemistry with other opponents. But yeah, it's clear that she has got it.
Yeah. The Beans here says Backlash 2025 looks like Netflix was given booking power for one premium live event.
Yeah, it's all algorithm based.
Yeah. What's going to generate the most hits?
Guest hosted by Jason Bateman from Ozark, maybe.
All right.
Trying to think of other Netflix hits.
Yeah, there you go.
What else is? The Stranger Things kids show up for a run-in of some sort. I don't know.
I'm honestly kind of surprised there hasn't been more involvement from Netflix programs other than, people starring in the shows being in attendance at events. We've seen that.
Man, TNA tried that the other day because they were in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
The biggest name that I was aware of was dude, what's the name of the guy who is like the creator of Jackass? Jeff Tremaine.
Yeah.
He was there.
All right.
And then like a couple actors, never heard of them. And there was like, yeah, and there was like a couple like, oh, who there was, I think there was somebody. Yeah, no, I'd never. They were like, oh, in attendance tonight. I'm like, I don't know who these people are. And it's like, I don't think it's a case of like, oh, I'm a boomer, I don't know who they are. I think it's like, this is obscure.
Yeah.
I think there was a girl who's starring in the latest Final Destination.
Oh, all right.
But I don't know, like actors are so, it's not like it used to be with actors where everybody knew who everybody was. So, yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah, you got Pat McAfee and Logan Paul, Netflix trying to boost them numbers. Here we go. LB38X says, hot take, Steve and Larson. Steve and wrestling had the worst review of LA Knight hitting Jacob Fatu with the BFT reversal to the moonsault to WrestleMania 41. Larson, I invite you to wash your hands of this one.
I don't, like, I want some details here. I was trying to defend it. I thought I gave it credit for the ambition. And, they got the point across. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But I was like, all right, I appreciate that they tried.
I can appreciate that they tried. But this was...
Hold on, Steve. Take it from me. My name's Wrestling.
We need another Arial black font shirt. Take it from me. My name is Wrestling. Or we'll do it in the font they use for the Wrestling is Real shirt. I hate seeing those things in the crowd, man. I really want to make a shirt, Larson, that says wrestling is predetermined and it's great and everything, but let's not call it real because that's placing some undue emphasis on the fake nature of it.
It's good.
That's our version of that shirt. You don't have to call it real, man.
No.
You don't have to call it real. It just invites critics, just invites people to be like, that's not real. Oh man. Yeah, I know I had mentioned this, I think I don't know, somewhere. But I'll reiterate. I went back and they did not replay it immediately after the spot, but in the package after the victory.
Did they use the same angle?
No, they use a different angle that
more
gave
favorable?
me a better look at it. A more favorable angle in terms of like, let's see what they actually pulled off here. And it was still horrible. Your assertion that he got 60% of it, no way, 15 most. 15% most. Basically just fell down next to Jacob Fatu, and that was it. He had kind of his hands up.
That level of coordination done, but that's like 3/4 what you got to do for a BFT. The last bit is just getting that head.
He didn't have the head. He had hands up. The head wasn't even close to the hands.
No, I know. I've been clear about that from the beginning.
It was an ugly spot. They never should have tried it.
No, they
don't be ambitious.
With that kind of sentiment, we never would have saw Randy hit Seth with the RKO at WrestleMania 31.
They could never get it in
warm-ups.
Because they couldn't get it in the warm-ups and they still tried it. That would have been the ugliest RKO if they didn't get it. Hey, if they had hit this BFT with perfection, then I wouldn't be saying this right now.
Mr. Van Cleef, hot take. AEW's storytelling has been better than WWE so far in 2025.
Doesn't quite hit as good when you have to say better and not worst.
It doesn't necessarily pop like in terms of like thumbnails or titles
not really,
or anything like that. No.
AEW storytelling has been better in WWE so far in 2025. Yeah, I don't know. That's an exhausting argument.
I'm going to say this. You can maybe make the case AEW's maybe been more consistent. Does it have the highs? No. Does it have the lows? Maybe not. Steady. They had that streak of 4 Dynamites that were really, really good. Last week wasn't one of them, but prior to that, the 3 or 4 were really, really good. Yeah. Felt like they were putting on really good matches, advancing stories.
I don't know if anybody's killing it right now. What's the best thing going on right now in all of pro wrestling? What's the best thing that's going on? Well, between AEW and WWE.
Oh, I was going to say Sonata joining House of Torture. Take it from me, Steve. My name's Wrestling.
Come on, wrestling. What's the best thing going on right now? You got, the one of them, Cena with the heel turn.
I will say, for me, the best thing, because I know week in and week out, it's going to give us a little bit of something. It may not be major advancement in the stories, but it gives me a little something every week. Performances are always on point. And I find this, well, there's two names. I find these two wrestlers know their characters just about as well as anybody else in the world of pro wrestling and know how to utilize their characters in telling stories and putting on good matches. And that's Hangman Adam Page and Tony Storm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think right now they are the two all-around best performers in pro wrestling for me right now.
In terms of like big storylines that are happening, like everybody's interested in the Seth thing and the Seth writers. That's like, oh wow, what are they doing here? That's cool. I don't know if AEW has that.
No,
but
they don't.
I feel you when you say maybe they've been more consistent. I feel that. I think there's a possibility that that's the case. Doesn't have the highs, doesn't have the lows, but like on a consistent basis.
Steady.
Yeah, I could see that. If that's your thing. If that's what you like.
If that's what you want.
I like never knowing if I'm going to get a banger episode or just the biggest turd. It's the unpredictability. All right, let's see here. Zondo says, no skill in wrestling matters more than just having a thing the crowd likes to chant at you. Getting a crowd to chant at you is a pretty high achievement.
Yeah, if you get the crowd involvement. You know, and that always opens up to the debate, you know, going back to, you know, the yes chant. Well, is the chant over or is the performer over?
Yeah.
And I can't think of many instances where at the time a chant got over despite the talent.
Sure. Yeah.
And if there are instances, please chat, let us know. But I think generally chants get over because people like the talent that are leading them to want to chant.
Max Caster is getting over off that. Let's go, Max. You're the best wrestler alive. That shit is hilarious.
He's sticking with it and it's getting over. Yeah.
And he's getting like aggravated with it because they're like, you know, they're chanting it with him and he doesn't really want them to do that.
Yeah.
No skill in wrestling matters more. I mean, if the crowd chanting your shit is indicative of the connection, I would say this: no skill in wrestling matters more than connecting with the crowd.
Yes.
And if that chant is indicative of that, then I agree. That's what you're supposed to do. If you connect with the crowd, then you're going to make money.
Y'all.
You're going to pry that money away from that crowd.
All right, Broski here. I don't know how this isn't in the thumbnail. Says, Dave Meltzer is overhated. Yeah, I said it.
Overhated. Yeah. Yeah, I it's hard not to agree with this one. People, boy, to this day, with as tongue-in-cheek as we are with our approach to Dave Meltzer over at Friendo Club, especially because we have like, you know, the Guest the Meltzer. We have a retro one coming up this week.
Yeah.
Boys, there are some people who are like, why would you ever give this guy? And then when we talk about like, you know, news stuff, I can't believe the other day. And you know what, man? Too often I just like ban these people from the channel instead of like capturing them so we could do another episode. But boy, somebody had a juicy. I got to see if I can get some of those back because we had a juicy one the other day. It was like, how old are you? It's something like, what are you? It's like, how old are you? And you're getting your news from dirt sheets. It's like, what? How old am I? I'm old.
I'm sorry, Newsweek does not have a weekly wrestling column for you, sir. I mean, where are we supposed to get our wrestling news from?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, yeah, people go crazy.
So we've been very clear with our opinions of Dave Meltzer in terms of news, hit or miss.
Yeah.
He's one of the foremost historians in the world of wrestling.
Oh, dude, going back and looking
without
his,
a doubt,
the newsletters are great.
And, you know, we, you know, use his scoops as fodder for discussion.
Yeah,
you know?
because people talk about it.
Yeah, because he reports it.
Yeah.
Because his name carries so much weight because he's been doing it forever.
Yeah.
He's like one of the established names in wrestling journalism. Mm-hmm. He's been doing it since, the late 80s?
Yeah. Yeah, but, I mean, people, they just, they hate when there is an opinion that carries more weight and is counter to theirs.
Mm-hmm.
They can't stand it. Certain people can't stand it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, it's one man and his opinion. That opinion carries a lot of weight with a lot of people. And it's fun to kind of take the piss out of it.
Yeah.
And we don't take the guy too seriously.
Nope.
And we have fun with, what a lot of people consider the gold standard in star ratings. And we're trying to become the gold standard.
We want to be the gold standard.
We want to be those other guys.
Next hot take here from Dr. Howie Feltersnatch. Mm-hmm. Says, Steve, let me ask you this. Is Hulk Hogan's let me tell you something, brother? You do like to say, let me ask you this.
Hey, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think I'm going to be honest with you is my let me tell you something, brother. Because when I say, let me ask you something, that is simply trying to garner conversation. That's a conversation starter right there. That's let me get Larson's opinion on something. That's just merely how I phrase it. But when I say, I'm going to be honest with you, that is let me tell you something. Because that's Steve about to, I'm not kayfabing you. I'm going to shoot right now. Like, when am I ever not honest? That's the funny thing about when I say, be honest with you. Like, what, have you been lying to me this whole time, Steve?
Yeah, I know. It's like, have you been kayfabing me this whole time, buddy?
Nah, man, I'm be honest with you. I keep it honest all the time.
All right, the Mooches here says, hot take, Cultaholics predictions punishments are just upsetting to watch now. Pacitti spent 3 days in Hell in a Smell. Just now they're upsetting?
Bro. Yesterday, I got on, I was on my laptop and I was on YouTube, and I was like, Hell in a Smell? Why does it say live? He was doing this like 2 days ago. And I was like, oh my God. I think he was at 36 hours at that point. I was like, oh my God. I don't even know. There was so much stuff going on. There was like, if he got to a certain point or if they got to a certain goal, he was going to take a shower, if I'm not mistaken, in horse urine. Which I don't know how that's even like a YouTube allowable thing. And I have no idea.
Seems a terms of service violation.
I have no idea. Well, I don't think the horse would be brought in to urinate.
No, I don't expect there like to be a urinating horse just right there. But still. Gosh.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder, I don't know how old Mr. Pacitti is. But at some point, at some point, man, you got to be too old for that, right? With Pacitti, it is genuinely shocking to me that nobody there, because seemingly anybody, if that Gervais show extras is to be believed, kind of anybody can get a show on the BBC, or at least one. It is shocking to me that guy hasn't been approached by the BBC yet for like a pilot of some sort. Mm-hmm. He is so much, and I love that we have him in the wrestling industry, in the wrestling content industry. But there's a part of me that thinks he's so much better than the wrestling industry. But he seems to have a really fun time doing that. I've watched several times the punishment where he went to the worst rated hotel.
Yeah.
It's really, really great stuff. But yeah, I mean, that people tune in and they really engage with the prediction stuff. And as long as he can, withstand it, then I think there's always going to be people finding it entertaining.
Wasn't there one where he had to take like the longest bus ride or something like that in England?
Something like that.
Like 40 hours or something like that.
Yeah. On like a terrible bus or something like that. Yeah, God, I love Pacitti. He's just a wonderful, wonderful person.
Yeah, he's
I think he's wildly entertaining, and that dude should have all the success in the world.
Yep. MKA Comedy with a hot take, a movie hot take, says Reservoir Dogs is better than Pulp Fiction.
Back when I was like, I don't know, 17, maybe I would have agreed with this, but I don't know. I actually tried watching Reservoir Dogs within the past 5 years, and like, it was kind of obnoxious. I couldn't really get too into it. And I haven't tried to watch Pulp Fiction recently, and I know that's got its own level of obnoxiousness to a degree, but that was always my jam when I was a kid. I think like my favorite Tarantino movie at this point is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. His best movie might be Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown is actually a really well-made story. It's a really good movie. But yeah, I don't know. Reservoir Dogs is at this point in my life is kind of like lower on the totem pole for Tarantino flicks.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I've seen either of these movies. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And maybe at one point, I would have said, yeah, I kind of prefer Reservoir Dogs. But again, I haven't probably seen it in 20 years. So
yeah, right.
Or Pulp Fiction for that matter. So I don't know.
Reservoir Dogs, the structure is just Kubrick's The Killing.
Yeah.
Just let's do a heist movie without the heist. Yeah.
Last one here from Steven the Dude. Is this your burner?
I wouldn't be so obvious about it.
Steven the Dude here says In Utero is better than Nevermind. 1,000% agree.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
How much, because I agree with this as well. In Utero's got some, I just fired this up really quick for a reminder. I was like, God damn. Forgot that, these songs were on here.
Yeah.
How much does oversaturation of an album play into your perception of where it stands on better or worse? If you were to listen to Nevermind for the first time and then the next day In Utero for the first time, do you think your opinion would be the same?
Not to knock how Nevermind sounds, because the record sounds good. There's an urgency to the production of In Utero that I feel like would grab me.
Did Steve Albini produce Nevermind?
No, it was Butch Vig.
Okay, but Steve Albini did In Utero.
Yeah, In Utero, yeah. And more than anything else, that's why I kind of prefer In Utero. It just feels more urgent, more visceral. And it's not that Nevermind it is a more produced album, but it's not like it feels like sterile or there's like a really, kind of a sheen to it. It's not, it doesn't sound like a top 40 record. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But yeah, there's something about the way In Utero sounds. It just grabs you immediately.
It's funny because you and I have talked before about bands that lose the hunger. Oh, we talk about Pearl Jam.
Mm-hmm.
On 10, you can literally I'm saying metaphorically, it's like you can hear their stomachs growling.
Mm-hmm.
There's hunger in the vocals.
Is that what Garden is about? Is hunger pangs?
Yeah, exactly. Literally, Hunger Strike has Eddie Vedder saying, "I'm going hungry."
Yeah, that's true.
And I believed it. I don't think that was a metaphor. He was literally saying, "I am starving right now because we're poor. We haven't been paid in advance." And you can feel them get less and less, more and more fat, metaphorically speaking. They're all pretty in good shape. But the hunger disappears over time.
Yeah.
In Utero is interesting because it's a resentful response to the success of Nevermind.
It is. Absolutely.
And the resentment is kind of akin to hunger.
Yeah.
Which makes that album boy, that album is just, it's urgent and it's visceral.
It is.
And it's biting, you know?
Is. It's almost like this is what we want a Nevermind to actually be.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, In Utero feels more an extension in terms of the rawness of it, the visceral nature of it, to Bleach as opposed to Nevermind.
Bleach is, honestly, Nevermind is my third. When I think of Nirvana, I'm like, God damn, man, these guys, I mean, Kurt Cobain, that dude was an artist, you know, like a tortured artist. He really was. And you can interpret the word hunger any way you want, but that need to express one's art is an interpretation of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me, Bleach and In Utero are the two best examples of that. And Nevermind, by virtue of it's produced, they knew what they were doing. They had, probably had an advance for Nevermind based off of their previous stuff.
They recorded it in L.A., I think.
Right.
And it Nevermind is a more produced record. But if you know, like Steve Albini's production technique, it's literally set up mic, roll. It's not. There's not like, not to say there's not thought put into the process, but doesn't seem to be a whole lot of overthinking. Because I think a lot of the takes on In Utero are like the first few that they did. It wasn't like they went and did 30 takes of something.
Yeah.
I was watching this thing. This is a bit of a tangent. I was watching this little interview clip with Pearl Jam had with Howard Stern, and they were talking about how they had to record even flow like 30 times because there's a tempo change between the verse and the chorus. And they were just overthinking it. Because in the end, I think it was Stone said, take 3 was probably fine.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But they thought they had to make it perfect,
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. I'd agree in terms of like, what I like and my taste. But I was thinking about that. I was like, it is kind of a difficult thing to put into proper context because Nevermind was played, half those songs were played on the radio just ad nauseum. And that doesn't make them not great songs. They are great songs. But it's always interested me, it's like I can't listen to any Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I haven't been able to for 20 years because their shit was so overplayed on the radio. Not to say that they didn't have really good music, but it was like, oh my God, I've heard this so many fucking times. It's like driving me out of my mind. And I can't listen to any Red Hot Chili Peppers these days. Yeah. I was never like huge into them, but I was always like, oh, this is cool songs. But yeah. Anyways.
So according to Google searches, Nevermind was recorded in about 16 to 18 days, and In Utero was about 2 weeks. So both of them really short.
Around the same time.
Recording times.
Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, I think Springsteen took a year to do the song Born to Run. Like some songs by themselves take forever, much less albums.
Yeah.
I was reading this thing the other day about Def Leppard's Hysteria. At the time, it was the most expensive record I'd ever made because they were just doing all sorts of stuff. So,
man. Yeah, well, there you go. Anyways, that's going to do it for this edition of the Steve and Larson Pro Wrestling